Australian kids are coming to terms with a nationwide ban on using social media for people under the age of 16. It's aimed at protecting children from addictive social platforms and harmful online content. Australia is the first country in the world to ban social media for young people. Platforms including Instagram, Snapchat, and YouTube have been told to deactivate or remove accounts for that age group or face heavy fines. Countries around the world have been looking at tougher regulations for social media platforms as concerns have grown in recent years over the effects on young people's mental health and safety online. And a warning, our next interview discusses suicide and cyberbullying. Our next guest is one of the drivers behind this ban. That's because of social media's impact on her daughter. Emma Mason's 15-year-old daughter, Tilly, died by suicide in 2022 after being cyberbullied, and Emma joins us now. You've been campaigning for years for this ban. How does it feel seeing it come into effect today?
Well, I must say it's a pretty proud moment. It's, of course, bittersweet because, I had to lose my daughter, Tilly, and then start this journey. But it's been a chorus of voices in Australia, parents of the lost children that have come together and said to our government, we need change. And you know what I say? The world needs change. Because for Tilly, I can't save her, but I can save some of the other Tillys that are around the world, kids that are suffering under the scourge of social media.
Let's take a moment to talk about Tilly and tell us what kind of person she was.
Tilly was a very creative, kind, gentle soul. She liked dancing, art, speech and drama. She was someone who was easily put upon by other kids, great at making friends, difficult at keeping friends, with a very wicked sense of humour. But in the end, the engagement with social media meant that the social heroine that I really allowed her access to via giving her a smartphone meant that in the end she became very mentally unwell. We had 11 suicide attempts and a successful 12th. So it was a pretty arduous journey in that last 2 years of her life.
I don't want to push you into memories that you don't want to think about, but what happened to her online? What pushed her so far?
So she began just with the, I guess it's even terrible to say this, the normal bullying, the face-to-face bullying at primary school. But then as technology developed and she was exactly at the right age to develop at the same time, and apps became more powerful and her engagement became more powerful. So at 12, I handed her a phone thinking it would help keep us connected as I was away for work. And what it did was just keep her so engaged in that social media space. She endured events that would happen at school, would then be replayed again at night via social media, via those messaging apps. And then we had a situation where in November 2020, she was subject to a fake nude image where a friend of hers, and it's not much of a friend as you could appreciate, but a friend took a photo from a Belgian porn site, cut the head off, and then spread it on Snapchat, or bully chat, as I like to call it. It was on a bus in a rural country town, spread to 5 children, then to 100, and it's estimated by 6 p.m. About 3,000 children received that image. And for Tilly, that was really the beginning of the end. It was, she withdrew from school, she withdrew from dancing, speech and drama, art. She just became more and more socially isolated as she couldn't face going out into a world where, as far as she was concerned, everyone knew. And it didn't matter that it wasn't her, because for all intents and purposes, it was, and it crushed her. And in the end, she couldn't cling on to hope. She couldn't find a way forward. And I'm lucky I was able to pay for psychological care, psychiatric care, everything I could do to help her. I had all the, nanny net, all the things to try and protect, and she got around them. And really, at the end of the day, her engagement in social media meant that the algorithms played on her vulnerability. So she was sad and she was looking up things, and in the end, all she saw was sadness. She saw ways to harm herself, ways to end her life, all on social media. You know, it really was just destructive to her.
Your story is so heartbreaking and powerful and eloquent in terms of supporting this ban. I'm just trying to imagine someone in Canada who's watching who doesn't want the ban, and I'm trying to think of what arguments they might make. So let me put a couple to you. One might be that you know, Tilly's case is an extreme case. And as terrible as it is, a broad law shouldn't be made based on one extreme case. What would you say to that?
Well, in one sense, I agree. I agree that Tilly is like a bookend of things that happen to children online. We know 84% of children in Australia are bullied each fortnight. Like, that's a large amount of children that are exposed to online harm every week. What we know from the research, and of course it comes from research all over the world, is that social media affects children's sleep. Every teacher you can ever meet will tell you concentration and therefore education and engagement in it. It affects their level of anxiety, their level of depression, their level of ultimately self-harm and suicide, and body image. We also know that 6 weeks after a disengagement from social media, there are improvements on all of those markers. We have a situation in which children start to engage in the real world. In Australia, there's an entity called the Heads Up Alliance. And what that's about is getting children to lift their head, to be part of the world in which they're engaged with and what they should be engaged with. You know, and when you look around, at least in Australia, and I understand it's the world, people aren't engaging in their world anymore. Their heads are down, they're looking. And it's the idea, the illusion of connection without real connection.
Emma Mason is an Australian mother and one of the drivers behind Australia's youth social media ban. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And if you or someone you know is suffering from mental distress, or if you were affected by the issues raised in the interview, help is available. You can text or call the Suicide Crisis Helpline. The number is 988. It's on your screen now. Support is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.